Hi there, Prairie Plant Girl here. Today I'm going to be planting out my Tuberous Begonias. One of these here, this one here, I grew from a tuber that I overwintered. I had overwintered 3 tubers, and I experimented last year with overwintering in cedar shavings, and they just did not overwinter well for me. I suspect it has to do with the cedar shavings. I'm not sure. If you want to see how I stored them, I'll give you a video link in the description below, and I would just recommend using a vermiculite or peat moss to store them in and not the wood shavings. The rest I purchased as tubers from the big box store this winter, and it was a package of 6, and it was an assorted mix of colors, and they're all supposed to be double begonias. So they've all grown very nicely, as you can see here. Begonias, you need to start indoors early. A lot of times I see it recommended to start them 4 to 6 weeks early. With my climate only being about 110 frost-free days, I tend to start mine closer to 2.5 months before my average last frost date. I find that gets them going. They need about 12 to 15 weeks of from when you start to get them going until they'll actually start blooming for you. So if you want to have blooms through most of your season in a short season like mine, I think starting them that little bit earlier is worthwhile, and they don't take a lot. This is the space. I have 7 in this tray. I could probably have 8. There's room for 1 more in this one little tray. So if you have room for that, then in the size, the number that you want, then that might be something to consider. So begonias are a shade-loving plant. They only want about 4 hours of sun a day, and they don't want the hot sun of the day, I find. So I'm going to be planting them in this planters here behind me, and they'll get morning sun. They don't want to be going outside before the nighttime temperatures are around 12 degrees Celsius or warmer, and the daytime temperatures should be in the 20s. Mid-20s is even better. Again, that's Celsius. So they like warmth, but they don't want to be scorched in the heat. So it's 31 degrees out today, so they're going to enjoy being back here in the cool. So I've had these in my cold frame for about the last week. They've been in a shady part of the cold frame. We've had very hot, sunny temperatures, so I've made sure that they've been in a shadier area, and they'll be happy to get back here in the shade where they're just getting the morning sun. Another thing about tuberous begonias is they are very shallow rooted, so you're only going to want to plant them about 2 inches deep, and you want to make sure that you're watering them consistently. They don't want to be sitting in wet soil, but they don't really want their roots to dry out, and they need pretty much a daily watering, because you're going to want to be shallowly watering them. They don't need a deep soaking. The roots aren't down low, but they do need that top area of the soil moist. That's a little bit easier to do because they are shade-loving plants. So the soil, I find here anyways, tends to stay just a little bit easier to keep that top layer damp in the shade. There's different types of begonias. So this, like I said, is a tuberous begonia. You can also buy fibrous begonias, which are a much smaller plant. You'll usually find in the bedding plant section of your nursery. And then you can get like the angel's wing or the dragon's wing begonias, and they're a much larger plant, and they're grown for much more colorful, larger, bolder foliage. This has beautiful foliage on these as well, but the dragon's wing and the angel's wing don't have quite as showy of blossoms as these tuberous begonias do. So that's something to consider when you're going to look and shop for begonias, is what type of begonia you're looking for. So I'm going to take these, I'm going to go through them. I have 7 here. I'm only going to put 4 back in this bed here. And like I said, the pack I picked up was a mixed variety of colors, so I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to wind up with back here. But while I pick those out, I'm going to let you have a little look at the space that I'm going to be planting up today, and then we'll start getting these in the ground. So we'll back you up just a little bit here so you can see the space. So this is my lower patio area. And where we're going to be planting is the large planter. It's just a long planter I built a few years ago in behind that chair. So let's let's have a look at that. So all this is a wood box frame planter that I've just made cutouts for, that I could drop some larger pots down into. So these are a rectangular pot. I think they're about 30 inches wide by, I think they're about 6 inches deep, and they're actually quite tall. I have 2 of them here, so I think you can see this other one over here. And then I have drip run to them. I actually haven't hooked up my drip yet. So once I get it started, they'll be getting regular watering through the drip line, but until then I'll be hand watering them with the watering can. At the moment I have some salpiglosis. I have 3. This one's not looking so good here. Just get rid of that. But I have 3 planted in each across the back. And then I have some impatiens put up at the front. These poor impatiens, I put them in, we had some really beautiful warm weather. It was looking like we were gonna have an early, last frost, and it was looking just gorgeous here. And then we got hit by a really abnormally cold spell at the end of May, and these were already planted in here. So luckily they're beside the house, they're under the eaves, so there was kept a little bit warmer in this area here, and I was covering these plants up with a sheet day and night in some cases, but at nights for sure for almost a week, I'd say. So they actually came through that better than I expected, and they're wanting to blossom here, so they'll fill in pretty soon. But my plan is to put the begonias, 1 in each of these spots here, and I think they'll fill in and be really nice. The salpiglosis will actually get taller than the begonias, so they'll come up the back there. And then the impatiens will kind of fill in the front, and it doesn't look like much right now, and I could put more impatiens in, but I find they tend to spill out more. So, and I didn't want to risk too many when I put them in, just because I knew we weren't actually even at our average last frost date when I did that. So I may wind up coming in, once we get the begonias in, I'll see what it looks like, and I may wind up throwing a couple of impatiens in here as well. But we'll get the begonias and we'll get started. So I've picked out my 4 begonias, and I picked out 2 that look like they're going to have a little bit of a darker leaf, and then 2 that look like they have a green leaf with a bit of red highlighting to it. Just because, like I said, I don't know the exact colors of the blooms that I'm going to be getting off of these. This one I know, this is my non-stop apple blossom that I had overwintered last year. So I know what that one is, and it's a white with kind of a pinky tinge to the edges. It's really soft color. So we'll see what the rest wind up as. This one looks like it's going to wind up with perhaps maybe even a white blossom as well, or something lighter colored, I would guess. So that'd be pretty nice if both of the dark leaf ones have a similar blossom on them. Now I wanted to show you something with this begonia, because it's a really good example. Begonias like to be pinched, and I can see that I haven't been doing that. So what pinching is just going down a few sets of leaves from the top and cutting it off on the stem, and that will encourage it to produce some side shoots. And so I'm going to be doing that with this one for sure, and I'll look at the others that I planted. They look like they might be a little bit bushier and branching out on their own. But this one is very lanky, so I think I'll go about here, and then hopefully that gives it gets it to bush out for me. I'm a little bit late doing that, but I didn't realize I hadn't been on top of that job. Like I said, I'll just look at the rest. You don't have to top them or pinch them back. If you want to get the biggest blossom, then you might want to just grow one main stem and get a really big bloom, but usually that's for people who are growing them for shows. I'm not growing for shows, I just want to enjoy some blooms here in my patio area, so I would like to have more blooms, even if there's a few smaller blooms. So I'm just going to get these planted in here. I'll show you planting one, and then I think we'll cut away and I'll show you what I did to get these started off in the spring, so you'll know what to do if you decide to do that for another season. Tuberous begonias are very easy to plant, so I'm just going to dig a very shallow hole here by this drip line. Like I said, they do not want to be very deep at all. And I'll just tip it out of its pot. You want to be very gentle with those roots, because they're very fibrous root system. It's very shallow, so hopefully you can see that root system on there. It's a beautiful root system, and you can see the tuber is right here. That's where it starts, and this is really probably as deep as they'll probably really root out already. So just gonna push it down into the soil and cover that up. And that's just how easy it is. I'm gonna put the tag back here, careful not to get the tuber with it, just so I know which one it is when I go to store them next year. And hopefully I can write on it what color it is then as well. I'm just going to be doing that exact same process with the other 4 begonias that I have here. So why don't I show you what I did to get them started and get them to this point while I'm doing that. So these are the 3 tubers that I had overwintered, and I pulled them out of storage. They weren't looking that great to me, but I often find that my begonias, when I pull them out of winter storage, they look kind of shriveled and dried up, and often they grow for me and do quite well. It's hard to tell here, but the one did have a small amount of sprouts on it. The larger one did, and the other 2 didn't look like they were sprouting yet, but I thought, well, they were small to begin with when I put them away, so I thought, well, we'll just plant them, and they just haven't grown large yet, and we'll see what happens. So what I put them down in is some very moist potting soil, and then I put dry potting soil on top, and it's just in a planting tray with holes in the bottom, set inside a planting tray that does not have holes in the bottom. So I just covered them up with about 2 centimeters of potting soil. Now it was dry potting soil that I put on top. You don't really want moisture in the bottom. And then I just labeled them with the tag that I'd saved from last year. Then I had the bag of 6 assorted tubers. So I just popped those out. And I'll just show you here how there's kind of a rounded, they're kind of rounded, and so the part that's rounded down is the bottom, the part that's kind of dipped in is the top. So that's how you can know which way to plant them. Sometimes you can kind of see the remnants of the old roots or the old stems where they've been cut off. In fact, this next one you kind of see where the stems had been cut off the top. But you just want to put, so it's that kind of indented part is up, and then just kind of wiggle them down into the soil. And again, these tubers that I purchased were looking a little rough as well. You can see some of them were looking a little bit moldy, and I had just sprinkled some sulfur powder on them, which is supposed to help with things like that. Sometimes I use cinnamon. This year I decided to try the sulfur. You know, I had it handy, so I decided just to try it. And so that's why some of them look like really, really gross on top. It's just the sulfur, because they were just looking a little bit iffy. But so I just, push them down into the soil, and again, I'll just cover them up with some dry potting mix. And again, we're just going for about a 2 to 5 centimeter layer of potting mix on top. Now you could have all of your potting mix just be just nice and damp. I felt that the bottom potting mix just seemed a little bit more wet than I wanted, so that's why I went in with dry on top, just to kind of, I knew it would pull some of that moisture out of the bottom and even it out a little bit. So that's why I did it the way I did it. But you just want just damp potting mix to put them in to get them started indoors here. And this was March 15th that I did this. And then it was June 4th that I planted them outside. So then I just put a dome on them, and you just wait, and it takes forever for the sprouts to start, and then once they start to sprout, you can put them into individual pots. Okay, so I finished planting these up, and I think they look gorgeous. I did wind up popping in just a couple more impatiens in each pot, and I think that just finished off that front row. Like I said, probably not necessary, but with our short season, it's just nice to have a little bit fuller looking pot right from the beginning. So these are Beacon Series white impatiens, one in the middle and one on each end, and then I popped in some Beacon Series violet impatiens. And then, like I said, this is Salpiglosis. I don't know if there's varieties of Salpiglosis, but I bought this from just kind of an independent seed seller local to my area, and they just came labeled as Salpiglosis, so I'm not sure exactly. You know, they usually come in shades of red or deep white with a deep yellow throat, so that's what I'm expecting out of those. So it should be a colorful display. And then, like I said, I'm not sure about the colors that I'll wind up with the begonias. I suspect I'll have white on the two kind of inside begonias, and I'm not sure about the outer ones. I did just cut back or pinch back this one here, and also actually the one branch on the outside one on the other pot as well. So here's the bits I cut off. And then I did want to mention, just because it's something good to know, and if you're not careful with your begonias, the one that I had overwintered last year, it looks like it had gotten knocked around at some point, and this set of leaves was just laying in the pot. So I'm not sure if you can put these in water. I might try and see if I can put these in the cuttings in water and see if I can get, I think I've grown them and gotten roots off of them before doing that, but I can't remember. So I'll probably give that a try, just out of curiosity. But you do need to be careful. Their stems are quite brittle, and they do break easily. One other thing I just wanted to tell you quick about the begonias with growing them is they're not a super hungry plant, but once they start to flower, you do want to come in about once a week or so and just give them a balanced fertilizer, like a 10-10-10, a 20-20-20, 5-5-5, you know, just something really balanced, just to keep them healthy and keep them blooming for you. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful and gave you confidence to start some begonias of your own, or just get some planted in your garden. And if you found this helpful and you want to share it with a friend, please do so, and give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.